Hello, I'm Amanda Gross, and I'm doing a global studies class, and I decided to do my final project on the worldwide demonstrations against racism despite COVID-19. On May 25, 2020, George Floyd was murdered by police officer Derek Chauvin. The event was videotaped by several bystanders and street cameras alike. In less than 24 hours, the event had worldwide news coverage. This is a picture that a man is painting to remember George Floyd. Demonstrations started within a day after George Floyd had died, despite the warnings of COVID exposure. This picture shows someone at a protest in the mask due to the COVID virus, and it says, "I can't breathe," using George Floyd's final words on the mask. Floyd protests have already become part of American history. On the right is a picture of today's protests in honor of George Floyd, and on the left is the fight for rights all the way back when they first started. I think it's one of the marches from Martin Luther King Jr. The whole world has come together in response to George Floyd's death. This one is France. I said France joins protests. Up above, pictures of these men holding signs. The signs say, in French, "Racism is suffocating us," on the left, and on the right, "We are all George Floyd." And then on the picture, the bottom right, has a picture of the Eiffel Tower and a sign that says "Police Assassins," because of all the police brutality that people are protesting and demonstrating against, as well as the racism across the world. I just used pictures from different countries. This one is Japan joins the demonstrations. It says racism exists in Tokyo. Somebody is holding up a sign at one of the Tokyo demonstrations. And all the way in Australia, they are also demonstrating. Australia joins the fight against racism. On the left, picture of a girl. Stop Aboriginal deaths in custody, because they are still killing some of them. And then on the bottom, I said New South Wales permission came 12 minutes prior to protest. What that means is in Australia, they were not allowed to protest at first. They could have been thrown into jail, all the protesters. So 12 minutes before the first time that the entire world knelt for George Floyd, 12 minutes prior to that came the Appeal Court, New South Wales Appeal Court permission for everyone to kneel. And they would have knelt anyway, but that gave them permission instead of them going to jail in protest. This is Germany during the protest. Top left, I don't really know if the police there are protesting or involved in protests, if they're against them. I wasn't sure about that article, but they have the one holding a sign, and they are starting to get arrested at some of the riots and some of the protests in Germany. So top left, that man is getting arrested. Bottom right, somebody else is getting arrested for the protests. This one shows some of the pictures that I found from England. The crowd joined all over England to protest. You see one of the English buses back there in the background. Just such a huge throng of people. I think these are both taken in London for the protests. Since my project is on worldwide protests, what I found in Oxford was history making. They have a picture of everyone kneeling in Oxford, right outside of Oxford College. And on the left, they're starting to take statues of slave owners. I think we're doing it here in the US. And I know they're doing it at Oxford, and I think they've done it even in other countries as well. And they want to get rid of the statues of people in the past that have been involved in the slave trade or had something to do with the slaves. So bottom left, they draped a cloth over one of the statues, Black Lives Matter, on a piece of cardboard. And then on the bottom right, they threw one of the statues into the river. They drowned the slave trader's statue at Oxford College. I thought I would end this presentation with these two pictures. A picture on the left showing the Earth with the mask for coronavirus. We are still under quarantine almost everywhere in the world. And I think it's amazing that all across the world, despite all the governments trying to quarantine, trying to keep a lid, as you will, on the COVID virus, that people are continuing to demonstrate and to try to equal everyone, equality for all, no matter who you are, no matter race. So on the right, I left a picture of world peace, because I know that's the intention of some of the demonstrators out there, if not all, is that eventually we would have world peace. There are different news articles on whether the demonstrations, the protests, have led to an increase in coronavirus. They have mixed reviews at this time all across newspapers. A lot of newspapers are saying we don't have the results yet. So in a couple more weeks, they'll have the results on whether or not the protests and demonstrations have actually increased COVID, which is what the health professionals and the health experts and politicians were worried about. Will the demonstrations increase COVID-19? They definitely think the COVID-19, the coronavirus, impacts the demonstrations and the protests, though, across the world. So I'll just end with hopefully in time, our planet will heal, and we'll see more like the picture on the right of world peace and an end to the pandemic in the future. Thank you.